Today I'm going to show you how to set up MCP servers inside of N8N. So this is going to be a 101 basic tutorial on how to get set up with MCP nodes inside of your AI agents so that you can actually set up any MCP server that you want. So let's dive right in. So the first thing that you need is a local hosted N8N environment. For whatever reason on the cloud hosted version, they don't let you set up MCP servers. So I recommend using something called Railway. So if you go to railway.app, which I'll include this in the description below, this is the easiest way to set up a self-hosted server. You could just click deploy new project. You can type in N8N with workers, or let me see here, deploy a template, and then you click deploy a template N8N with workers, and once you sign in, it will just automatically deploy this template for you. You can see it's deploying it, and then it will give you a custom URL. If you want a full video on this, I have a video on how to deploy this elsewhere. But for now, you deploy this, you set up the environment, and then once you're finished with that, you go over here to your N8N environment. It will give you this custom URL. You'll go to that custom URL, you'll create, a new free account, and now basically it's hosted on Railway, and I think they charge $5 a month. It's cheaper than N8N Cloud. You'll get your, cloud hosted version of N8N. Now the next thing you're going to do is you're going to go over here to the settings. You're going to go to community nodes, and you're literally just going to paste in N8N-nodes-MCP. So let me show you here. If I, uninstall this package, I don't want to uninstall this. Basically, you click install, you paste in N8N-nodes-MCP, you click install, and it will install it like this for you. This is how you have the MCP functionality. It's the community nodes feature. Then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to click new workflow, and then we're going to set up a N8N agent. So we're going to go click chat trigger here. We're going to create an AI agent. So AI agent. I'm just going to add in a system prompt, which is saying something like, you are an AI agent that has access to an MCP server for web scraping. Please call the MCP server whenever you need to scrape data from the web. So that's a system prompt, and then we're going to give it a chat model. You're going to give it something like OpenAI, so OpenAI chat model. I'm just going to give it access to my key here. If you need to set this up, you go to openai.com/API. You create a free account. It'll give you some credits. You get your API key, and then whenever you want to do this, you click create new credential, and then you click API key here. So yeah, you basically put the API key in there, and that's how you set it up. Let me make sure I have this connected. For the memory, you can just do simple memory here. Simple memory, just keep the default. So for the next thing, we're going to set up the MCP server, the MCP client tool. So we're going to type in MCP here. Now, because we set up that community node at the beginning, if you don't set that up, you won't actually see these as options right here. But because we did, these are options. So you're going to go to MCP client tool, and we're going to create a new MCP server. We're going to use the command line, connect using command line, and then we're going to go to the MCP. So we're going to set up Bright Data MCP today. So I'm going to go Bright Data MCP, and I'll link this in the description below, Bright Data MCP. Now, this is how we set it up. This is for, you can connect directly to Claude Desktop, but we're going to connect, it's the same or a similar functionality when connecting it to N8N. So we have the command line, or the command right here, which is npx. The argument is going to be args, so just anything in between these quotes here. And for different MCP servers, it's going to look the same. You're going to have something that looks just like this. You just change out whatever the argument is with whatever MCP server you want. Now for the environment, we're going to use the API token. There's probably API tokens or other variables for environment variables that you might have to use. So you're going to go in here. We're going to command paste API token equals. And then for whatever service you're going to use, you're going to want to put the API token in. So I'm using Bright Data. So I'm going to click refresh key, refresh, paste this in, and boom. Now we have that pasted in. So this is the, Bright Data underscore June underscore 23 underscore test. Save, boom. And now we have our MCP node set up. And so this MCP node will allow us to connect to Bright Data MCP, but you can connect to any different MCP server, right? So we have, if you type in, Airtable MCP server, I believe it's going to be this GitHub one. You can go to Airtable MCP server. There you go, MPX, Airtable MCP server, Airtable API key, right? So it's going to work for whatever one you want to use. There's even, some setup guides in here. So whether it's Airtable, whether it's Bright Data, whatever it is. Now I'm going to say, scrape me some data on Bright Data using the MCP server connected. So boom, it's going to OpenAI. It's going to the MCP client tool. Okay, so now you can give it different, functionalities. So we actually put the list tools in here. You can see list tools. And so for that list tools functionality, it's not actually scraping yet because it's not executing the tool. So there's different things you can choose inside of this. So we have list tools. And so let me just let this run. I'm going to duplicate this node, connect it again. I don't know why it's running so many freaking times. 6 times. All right, I'm going to stop this. We should see that it's, it's like, here's all the tools you can use, Amazon product, whatever. So we want to actually execute the tool now. So we're going to choose the MCP client tool. This is the, execute tool functionality. And rather than list tool, we're going to choose execute. We're going to choose the tool name. So this is going to be something like you're going to choose expression. And this is where you let the AI choose. So we're going to choose from AI. So let me do this again. Brackets, from AI. We're going to say, we're going to add in these quotation marks. Tool underscore name. And then I'm going to say comma, string. Choose the tool based on the chat query from the user. So what we're doing here is we're letting the AI choose the name of the tool based on the chat query, and we want it to be passed as a string. And for the parameters, we could say something like, tool. Let's just let the AI decide. Let's see if that works. So now I'm going to say this is the execute tool functionality, and this is the list tool functionality. So let's say I deactivate the list tool so that it can only execute. Scrape me some data from Google on local businesses that do HVAC in San Francisco. So because we connected Bright Data as a scraper, we're connecting the MCP, and you're seeing it's executing this tool now. Let's see if it works. Okay, looks like we got to do some debugging here. So the tool name, I think we might need to define the tool parameters a little bit better. But you can see that the MCP is connected. It's actually running it. Ideally, the error is probably not with the API key. I bet the error is just... Okay, so it doesn't... Okay, so it basically chose the wrong tool. So it's like, it's telling us, here's all the different tools you can use. Choose the right tool. So I'm going to say, boom. I'm going to go into this AI agent, and I'm going to tell it, I'm going to paste these in here. Make this an expression. So, and I'm going to say, here's the list of tools that you have access to. Make sure to pass these as your query when calling the MCP server. So boom, let's try it one more time. Scrape me some local businesses in San Francisco that are HVAC companies. All right, let's see if it calls this tool correctly now. Nope. So again, it's just debugging central. Nothing wrong with debugging here. So the tool name, web data, Google Maps review. So let's go into this filled MCP. Oops. All right, MCP error, invalid, expected, received undefined, code, invalid type, expected string. So let's just map this out a little bit better. So tool parameters. So we're actually going to call the tool parameters a little bit more closely. So let's hard code the parameters in here, or rather like define these a little bit more strictly. So it has API token. We have the web unlocker zone, we have the browser zone. So this is where we define the browser, and this is where we define the web unlocker zone. So let's go in here. We're going to write some JSON. So tool parameters, the query that the user, let's make sure that we pass actually whatever the query is from the user, and then whatever the search engine is, we're going to pass that. Let's just say Google for now. So we have Google as a search engine. Then for the query, we're going to go in here. We're going to map this. Make sure this is set to expression, chat input. We're going to add the chat input in the query here. And then we're going to test this out. So find me some HVAC companies in San Francisco. So boom. It's executing the tool. And every MCP server is going to have a different, how you define the parameters is going to be different. So it does help to read the documentation of the, for how to build it out. So boom, here we go. Cabrillo Plumbing. Let's see if this is valid. Let's go. All right, it's a valid company. Let's see if this is a valid company. So we just built an MCP server that scrapes data from the internet. And, maybe if we actually give it the tools, it will be able to define that a little bit better. But yeah, so there's going to be different queries. So what you can actually do, so if we go into like Bright Data MCP or, Airtable MCP server, whatever it is, we just had the Airtable MCP or the Bright Data MCP. You can just copy all of this into Claude. And so if I go over here into Claude, let's say I just paste this in and I say, here's the Bright Data MCP documentation. Help me identify the tool parameters that I can put into an N8N AI agent that I'm connecting with this MCP server. Help me, write that tool parameters and the tool name and make sure that it gets passed correctly to the MCP server from the AI agent inside of N8N. So boom, we can just, this is the way to go, right? So if you don't know what to do, paste in all the documentation into Claude, have Claude figure it out for you. Claude Opus 4 with the extended thinking is a really, really powerful model. It has a lot of understanding. If you need to add in N8N documentation, that can help. But you can see available tools, environment setup. It's helping you understand all the configuration. And, we can see I'm sure if we add this as the direct query, it's going to help us out. But that's how you debug it, right? So it's going to be different for every single one, but that's really how you debug it here. So that's really how you set up an MCP server inside of N8N, guys. So I hope this was valuable for you. Setting up MCPs is a really powerful way to kind of boost your agent's functionality. We just set up a Bright Data, web scraper MCP agent here. But let's say that we, set up 5 different MCP agents, and then it had access to a web scraper and an email sending tool and a database tool, CRM. We could add as many MCP servers as we want. And now rather than having to add in, 20 different endpoints, to this agent, we add in one MCP endpoint that has access to all 20. So now all of a sudden we can connect to hundreds of different API endpoints with a few different MCP servers, and this makes your agent so much more powerful, guys. So I hope you found this valuable. I have other videos where we build more complex workflows with MCP servers, but this is kind of just like the basics if you want to understand how to set them up. So thank you for watching.